Hey, Gospel Chums, it's your cartoonist Will Boyer here. Now, I didn't know this would be the first book our way. I would start this by wanting to do some Christian comic book reviews. Now, the reason why I'm in my car and not in my studio might be a little, a little glorifying that little messy office I have. Well, the reason why I'm in my car today, not in my studio, is because actually this book doesn't belong to me. It came in at work today. So, I can't take it home with me. But it was slow, and I read it today, and it's a really great book. So I want to let you all know about it. It's Saint Francis and Brother Duck. It's kind of a fictional children's version of the story about Saint Francis. Saint Francis. I didn't actually know anything about Saint Francis before I read this book. Uh, it talks about the years that Saint Francis was alive, but I don't remember. 1226, October 3rd, 1226 is the day he died. Yes, the book starts with his death. Anyway, it's actually a very great book. And if you're wondering, yes, definitely Roman Catholic. But this book, except for, sorry, I don't mean to give you the weird thing first, except for this back here. I mean, I do believe that Christ has and will appear to people like the Apostle Paul, aka Saul of Tarsus, on the road to Damascus. But I don't believe Jesus looks like a seraphim, but maybe that's just the artist's artistic liberty. I don't know anything about Saint Francis, but the great thing about this book is it just uses a bunch of Bible verses to teach the love of God and loving others and turning the other cheek, and really, and I think I've been bogged down by materialism lately, and I wouldn't say a little. No, it's So definitely, I think one of the things that Saint Francis, according to this graphic novel, is one of the things he and his order seem to be really big about is not owning anything, and it's really challenging, especially in this American materialistic culture. I'm okay now, but in previous years, man, I was about to just I'm done with Christmas because I just wanted it to be about Jesus, and it was just materialism everywhere, and I was so frustrated. But anyway, but it's real challenging because I agree with his point, the point that Saint Francis, at least in this fictional, because he didn't really have a talking duck buddy, this fictional children's version of his life. Uh, so I can't say I've officially read the writings of Saint Francis, but I'd like to believe this book is heavily inspired by it, and one thing he says is that not owning anything, lack of materialism in one's life, means that there's nothing between that will get in the way between us and Jesus. Here's us and Jesus, materialism, and this is very true. It's very true in my life. I had some bad things happen in the tail end of 2018. Gospelman was rocking in 2018, but my wife and I had our third miscarriage, and we are fostering this little girl who, as far as we knew, we were going to adopt her, and it just, oh man, within like 2 days or something. I mean, that's not the full story. I was going to say within 2 days, God took all that away, but no, I mean, we weren't expecting it. In a 3-hour period, we were told, the child's moving right now to their great aunt. We didn't know that was even going to happen. So, we had to rush home immediately and pack her things, and we didn't even get to say goodbye to her at the daycare. That was really rough, but I'm really glad she got to go back to her family, and that was a very big blessing for her and her family, I know. Uh, not not that her family wasn't allowed visitation, because they were, but anyway, moving on. We found out we were pregnant like 2 days later, and that was a blessing, but it didn't work out. It wasn't Lord's will. We were heartbroken just a few weeks after that, after finding out. So it was real rough, and I bought a Nintendo Switch, but I think it just made things worse. Materialism, wanting more and more, gotta have it. I should have relied on the Lord. So St. Francis teaching, I'm not saying we should all become homeless like St. Francis, but I know that Jesus didn't have. I know Jesus was homeless. He's quoted as saying, foxes have dens, and Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. He was telling that to someone who wanted to follow him. Back in that day, yes, if you wanted to follow the crowd Jesus, you'd be homeless, but I don't think that the Lord Jesus Christ or God the Father is calling us to homelessness today. But I do believe that there is a spiritual blessing for those that do not allow materialism to get in between them and the Lord Jesus Christ. But and that's a challenging message. But what I really want to praise this for, I mean, it's just a great book. It is excellently written. It could have been written by a Protestant, so don't let the Catholic thing fool you. I'm only saying I think it's Catholic because it's about St. Francis. I don't know other than that. But look at this. The artwork is beautiful. What is this? I mean, I know I need to go back to art college. Is this water painting? Because that is beautiful right there. If you really look at the colors, it's beautiful. I mean, it was definitely hand drawn, the line art, but then the colors went in and just really made this thing shine just really beautifully. Uh, and I just really recommend this book. It definitely challenged me spiritually in a way I didn't expect. Uh, even I flipped through it first and I was like, whoa, what's this weird flying Jesus here? So I didn't know what to expect, but wow, when I actually read this thing, it was great. Uh, just to give an example of one of my favorite pages in this book, if I can find it. Um, if I can find it, that's a big if. Well, it just talks about the love of God, and there are quite a few pages that do that actually. Uh, but it reminded me of my work on Gospelman. I know that I've written some stories and scripts, and you all haven't seen it yet. But just Gospelman's just really positive character. Just excuse me, I almost sneezed. I did sneeze. Anyway, so I don't know. I just really appreciate this book and the person who wrote it for uh, this message. And look, have you other fellow Baptists or Protestants ever done this? You open the Bible to some random Bible verse and hoping God will speak to you. Well, I don't know if the person who wrote this is a Protestant or a Catholic or what, but well, apparently the Catholics do it too. Ha 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 ha. Just flip that book open, random verse, see if God's speaking to us. So I'm just making a little joke there. It's fun. Um, so it is true I'm having a hard time finding that page, but it's a great book and I really recommend it. St. Francis and Brother Duck is written by Jay Stoeckl. He's an aspiring cartoonist. After traveling to Assisi, because he is, Francis is of Assisi, he was inspired by the life of St. Francis and professed as a secular Franciscan. I don't know what that means. I hope that does not mean he's not a Christian, but I wouldn't know. But the way the book's written makes me feel like he is a Christian. So he says he's a secular Franciscan. He has a master's degree in teaching and has taught elementary and middle school for 11 years. Jay lives in southwestern Colorado with his wife and family, and this is his first book. And what a strong first entry, I might add. So give a look. Give Jay's book a look if you're interested. It is great. To talk about what's in this book, if you're not already familiar with St. Francis, he has a dream at night, which he believes came from God. He's in a church, and there are swords and shields and tapestries everywhere with crosses. And then there's this beggar lady here, and he says, "Who does this building belong to?" He thinks this is a palace. And then the this poor lady in tatters says, it belongs to you, Francis. So he gets confused, and the next day, well, I don't know how it happens in real life, but I know how it happens in this book, you know. So the next day, you know, he starts telling his dad his dream. His dad won't listen. His dad just throws him out and says, "You're going off to the Crusades. You're going to be a great knight." So while he's off in the Crusades, God speaks to him while he visits an abandoned church, and he understands that God's telling him that he misunderstood. He's not supposed to be a knight fighting in the Crusades. God tells him to go back to his sissy until I tell you what to do next. And so, oh man, he's in trouble with his dad. Sorry about that. Little Baptist preaching spit there. So he's in trouble with his dad. But through the course of the events, he finds God's will for his life, and he becomes homeless because uh, he doesn't. He won't recant his beliefs in Jesus Christ. You know, his dad has a plan for his life, but Francis is, I love you, Dad, but you know, God has a plan for my life, and I need to follow him. And so that's real sad. And I don't know about in real life, but in this comic book here, this graphic novel, Francis does wish that he and his dad will get right one day, but they don't. Unfortunately, not according to this book. But I'm going to save the rest of the book as a surprise for everyone. It's really great and really challenging. Until next time, Gospel Chums.